Yo, what's going on, true Blazers fans? It's Tori, and if you're wondering what I'm doing on this channel, me and Eric are partnering up to bring you some Blazer analysis. Eric has always had great highlights on his channel, and I've watched his channel for a while, but I thought that he needed an analysis part of his channel, so that's what I'm here to bring. I really look forward to bringing you some Blazer-oriented content. And with that being said, let's jump into today's video. Today we're going to be talking about 7 draft prospects that I think the Portland Trail Blazers should target. Now, we're going to do this in 3 different sections. The first section, we're going to talk about 3 prospects that are in Portland's draft range. Of course, Portland has the 24th overall pick. The second section, we're going to talk about 2 guys that I think the Portland Trail Blazers should try really hard to trade up for. And then the third section, we're going to talk about a couple of guys that I think Portland should either trade down for into the second round or should buy a second round pick in draft. The first prospect on my radar for the Blazers is Chandler Hutchison. Now, this is a guy that Blazer fans might know a little bit about because he has some ties to Damian Lillard. Their ties extend through assistant coach Phil Beckner. Phil Beckner was an assistant coach at Weber State when Damian Lillard played there and is really credited with developing Damian Lillard's offensive attack, from his pick and rolls to his footwork to his stutter steps and everything in between. Now, Phil Beckner coaches at Boise State, which is where Chandler Hutchison played his senior year of college basketball. Damian Lillard has been someone that Chandler Hutchison has been able to look up to, and they've actually worked out together in the past. But the Blazers should not only target Chandler Hutchison because of his ties to Damian Lillard, but because Chandler Hutchison is a hard worker and a very good player. Chandler Hutchison didn't really show anything his first 2 years that led many to believe he'd ever be an NBA player. Kinda reminds you of Damian Lillard, doesn't it? Well, Chandler Hutchison ended up blossoming into one of the best players in the country during his junior and senior seasons at Boise State, where he developed into a decent three-point shooter after struggling with his shot early in his career, and he developed into a guy that could take guys off the bounce. He has a very quick first step. He's also a very solid defender, and even though he's 6'7", he has a 7'1" wingspan, so he can play the shooting guard position because he can distribute and handle the ball a little bit, or he can play small forward because he has the size. He's a very versatile player, and he has a lot of well-rounded parts to his game, which lead many people to believe that he could be a rotation piece for a team right away, even a team that's trying to contend like the Portland Trail Blazers. And the narrative this offseason is Portland needs to get better for the playoffs, and Chandler Hutchison could definitely help with that. Although he's 22 years old and older than most prospects in this draft class, Chandler Hutchison's work ethic should end up with him improving steadily over the next 5 years of his career until he hits his prime around age 27. Work ethic is undervalued, and Chandler Hutchison has it. So all of Hutchison's traits that I listed, as well as Portland's need for a 3-and-D small forward that can score and dribble the ball a little bit, are all reasons why I think Hutchison should be on Portland's radar. However, it is rumored that Hutchison has been promised the 22nd pick to the Chicago Bulls, so Portland might need to trade up to 20 or 21 just in order to land Chandler Hutchison, but I definitely think that that's a move that they should make. The next guy we're going to talk about is Khyri Thomas, who was a 6'4" shooting guard from Creighton University. This is a guy that, although he's 6'4", he has almost a 7-foot wingspan, so you don't have to worry about him being undersized for the shooting guard position. He's a 3-and-D prospect, and he could potentially be a 40% three-point shooter in the NBA to go along with top-notch elite-level defense. Although he doesn't have the most potential as a guy that can create off the dribble and create shots for others, he is decent enough that that could be a little part of his game moving forward. He's definitely a guy that could come off the bench behind Lillard and McCollum, maybe Portland's third guard, be a secondary ball handler, and be the defender that needs to be paired up alongside Lillard or McCollum when one of the others on the bench. Thomas is older, 22 years old, so he's not going to improve that much, and he doesn't seem to have a super high work ethic like Chandler Hutchison does, so he could be a prospect that might not develop much, but still be a decent pick because he could help Portland right away. With Shabazz Napier and Pat Connaughton being restricted free agents, Portland might end up letting those guys go and getting a cheap replacement who might be better than both of them in Khyri Thomas. The third player in Portland's draft range that I want them to target is Dzanan Musa. This is a guy who's a foreign prospect, so he may be stashed for a couple years, which wouldn't really be a bad thing if Portland needs to develop somebody with that 24th pick, because we all know they're paying a ton of money, so they're going to be paying luxury tax, so saving any money they can might be a good move, so stashing a prospect might be the way to go. Musa is a knockdown shooter, as well as a guy that has potential to be a shot creator for himself and others. And this is a guy who's 6'9" and a small forward. He's an okay athlete, not a ton of burst, but he definitely has the size and the skills and the shooting ability to be a complete small forward. He reminds me a lot of Chandler Parsons before Chandler Parsons ended up having a lot of injury problems. Of course, Chandler Parsons is a guy Neil Olshey targeted in the past and ended up not being able to land in free agency, and he tried to get the same type of player in Evan Turner, but Evan Turner is not a good fit because he can't shoot the ball, so he can't play off of Lillard and McCollum. Dzanan Musa, if he's able to reach his potential, could spread the floor as well as help Lillard and McCollum create shots for others, as well as create shots for Lillard and McCollum themselves. It would help Lillard and McCollum play a little bit more off the ball, which would hopefully lead to Portland having more ball movement and player movement within their offense instead of isolation. Musa is from Bosnia, so he does have a relationship with Jusuf Nurkic. That could help Musa's transition over from Bosnia to the United States, which is always a hard transition for a foreign prospect. All those are reasons why I think Portland should look at drafting Dzanan Musa. So now we're going to move into players that I think the Blazers should look at trading up for. Starting with Mohamed Bamba, who I think might be the best player in this draft, even better than consensus #1 overall pick DeAndre Ayton. Bamba's draft stock is between 4 and 6. He may fall to 7, but it's going to be extremely hard for Portland to trade up that high. They'd have to be creative, probably include future picks, and maybe would even have to include CJ McCollum. Bamba is probably going to be the best rim protecting center in the NBA 5 years from now. He's basically the next Rudy Gobert. He stands 7 feet 1 tall and has a 7'10" wingspan. This dude is a freak of nature and absolutely massive. But not only does Bamba have elite size, but he also has great defensive instincts, a quick first jump, he's agile, he's able to slide his feet and stay in front of quicker players, and he's just an overall all-around good defender. While Rudy Gobert is his closest comparison, it's only because of the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, Rudy Gobert isn't that good of a player. However, Mohamed Bamba could be absolutely phenomenal. Bamba has shown flashes of a three-point shot and has been working out with Drew Hanlen all summer, who's one of the best NBA trainers there is, and he's been working out with Drew Hanlen to develop his three-point shot. And I gotta say, man, Bamba's shot looks very, very smooth, and his form looks very, very solid, and his results in these workouts look amazing. He looks like he could definitely be a legit three-point shooter, be a guy that can protect the rim on the interior defensively, while on offense he could take the opponent's rim protector out of the paint. Zach Collins and Mohamed Bamba paired up in the front court for the future would give Portland 2 7-footers that are very, very good defenders that can both guard small forwards, power forwards, and centers, that can both spread the floor on offense. That would be the front court of the future, and defensively that would be absolutely phenomenal. It might be what you need to become an elite defensive team with a backcourt that's not so good defensively with Lillard and McCollum. I think Portland could still figure out a way to keep Jusuf Nurkic in restricted free agency for a few years while they developed Mohamed Bamba. Bamba is agile enough and a good enough shooter to probably play some power forward next to Nurkic, that Twin Towers type of lineup. In a front court of Zach Collins, Mohamed Bamba, and Jusuf Nurkic would be absolutely phenomenal. Down the road, you could maybe trade Jusuf Nurkic or just keep those 3 bigs as 3 great defenders and good offensive players. Yes, I know trading up for Mohamed Bamba is unlikely and is going to be very, very hard to do, maybe even impossible. But I just had to talk about the dream front court of Zach Collins and Mohamed Bamba. It's a fun one to think about. Now we're going to move up to a more realistic trade-up target, and that's Mikal Bridges out of Villanova. This dude is a wing, probably a small forward at the NBA level, and he's a phenomenal 3-and-D prospect with the potential to do more as a playmaker and as a shot creator for himself and others. Mikal Bridges would probably be good enough to start for Portland next year at the small forward position because his defense is probably just as good as Mo Harkless's. His three-point shot is probably better and more consistent. He's able to shoot threes on a higher volume, and then he's definitely able to do more with the dribble. He's projected to go between 9 and 10. I will be surprised if he goes anywhere else other than those two spots, so Portland will have to trade that high to be able to get Mikal Bridges. But maybe if they're able to get the 14th pick with Faried, and then they could combine the 14th pick and the 24th pick to trade up to 10, and then maybe take Mikal Bridges, that could be something Portland could potentially do. It's not quite as impossible as trading all the way up to get Mohamed Bamba. And Mikal Bridges actually fits a need in Portland, as Portland definitely needs a small forward. I don't want Evan Turner in the rotation next year. That's just my honest opinion. So being able to bring Mo Harkless off the bench behind Mikal Bridges would be phenomenal, because that would give you 48 minutes of small forwards that can defend, shoot the three ball, and do a little bit off the dribble and bring some athleticism to the lineup. Bridges would definitely be a very good piece of Portland's core, along with Zach Collins and Jusuf Nurkic, and that Bridges could definitely be a big part of Portland's core, and Lillard, McCollum, Bridges, Collins, and Jusuf Nurkic will probably be the starting lineup for the next 5 years unless they made another move, because Bridges, Collins, and Nurkic are all very, very young, all good defensively, and they all have a lot of offensive potential. Mikal Bridges is my favorite trade-up target that's actually realistic for Portland, and he'd be a great fit here in the Rose City. Now we're going to look at a couple prospects that I think the Portland Trail Blazers should think about trading down for or buying a second-round pick for. These guys are definitely players that I think could develop into starting level players, even though they're being projected as second round picks. Portland, of course, has the 24th pick, and they could hypothetically trade it down to a team like Atlanta, who has a lot of picks and might look to consolidate something like the 30th and the 34th picks in the draft. Trading down from 24 into 2 lower picks could allow Portland to take both of these guys that I'm going to mention. The first guy is Bruce Brown, a shooting guard out of Miami, who's a 3-and-D prospect with a potential to be a little bit more. He reminds me a lot of Wesley Matthews, a tenacious defender with a lot of potential to be an elite lockdown guy. But he can also shoot the ball, even though he was somewhat inconsistent in college. He doesn't have a bad stroke, and he could get hot at times, so he could definitely develop into a 38, 39, maybe even 40% three-point shooter like Wesley Matthews did after being not so great of a shooter at Marquette. He's very smart and a student of the game, so even though he's not the youngest draft prospect in this class, he should still be able to develop a decent amount. However, Brown does come with some injury concerns, and if he didn't have injury issues, he might not even last to Portland's 24th pick. He has a decent amount of size and can guard both guard positions and do enough with the ball to be a secondary ball handler, so I think he'd be a good third guard behind Lillard and McCollum, potentially even next year. This is a guy that I could see potentially being better than Shabazz Napier and Pat Connaughton were last year in only his rookie season. It'd definitely be fun to see Wade Baldwin IV and Bruce Brown Jr. battling for that third guard spot in the preseason and in training camp. The last guy we're going to talk about is my favorite sleeper prospect, and he's a guy that Portland could potentially buy a second round pick for, as he's projected to go as high as 35th, but as low as 60th or even undrafted, and that is Alize Johnson out of Missouri State. Of course, Portland has a lot of success with mid-major prospects, so why not take another one? Alize Johnson was a 5'9" freshman in high school. Ended up graduating high school as a 6'4" player with no Division I offers. Then he grew to 6'9", kept the playmaking skills and the ball handling ability he had as a smaller, younger prospect, and added that into a point forward type of prospect, which he is now. At 6'9", he's very strong and very physical and can still handle the ball and play make at the power forward position. He's agile and quick enough to guard multiple positions and could potentially grow into somebody that could guard positions 1 through 5. He's also not a bad shooter, and although he's kind of streaky and inconsistent, he does have a decent stroke and looks like he could potentially develop into a guy that could be a consistent threat from the perimeter and help space the floor as a stretch 4 that can do a lot more than just shoot. Honestly, I think Alize Johnson is the closest Draymond clone as there has been since Draymond Green got drafted into the NBA. He doesn't have one strength that stands out above the rest, but he can do so many good things well that I think he'd be the perfect role player for Portland. While I do like comparing him to Draymond, I think another close comparison would be James Johnson of the Miami Heat, who I'd love to have on my team as a guy that can defend, shoot a little bit, run pick and roll, handle the ball, and distribute for others. I think Alize Johnson should easily be a first-round pick in this draft, but for some reason, it appears that teams are sleeping on him. I honestly wouldn't even be upset if Portland took him at 24, even though it'd be a bit of a reach. So that's why it makes sense, in my opinion, for Portland to trade down to 30 and 34 or some package like that to take Alize Johnson because he likely won't get picked before then. At another pick, take a Bruce Brown or another sleeper. Not to mention, his name is awesome. Alize has a ton of potential, and I really hope he's in a Blazer uniform next season. Anyway, let me know down in the comment section below what you think about the players that I listed, as well as any that I might have missed that you want the Portland Trail Blazers to target in the draft tonight. Me and Eric are very excited to bring these types of videos to you guys into this channel, so we really hope if you aren't already subscribed, you hit that subscribe button down below and help us grow. Whoever the Blazers end up with in the draft tonight, I will definitely have a video breaking down their game and breaking down the draft pick or the trade, because there might be one. So who knows what happens, but I will be right here to break it down for you guys. With that being said, I'm out of here. This has been Tori. Go Blazers.